Well, that you make a lot of different points, and I just kind of want to run through them. We don't have to cover each one in the book, but you go ahead and say that masks are ineffective and dangerous. Social distancing was not science-based. The school closures weren't science-based. You talk about how lockdowns were counterproductive, like you said, vaccinating children causing more harm and death than it averts. You talked about how officials wrongly used the PCR test to justify the countermeasures. Talk about how COVID-19 maybe have come from the Wuhan lab. I know you have another book that's going to go into that in detail. Natural immunity, superior to the vaccine immunity. Again, talking about how the mRNA vaccines can alter human DNA. I mean, it just keeps going on. What's crazy to me, Robert, is that I had these discussions in 2020 from all sorts of doctors, from the Mikovitzes, from the Butars. We talked about Wuhan, things like that. People couldn't conceive of these things. We talked about the ineffectivity of the PCR test in April of 2020. And yet nobody could even hear that at that point. And a lot of people still don't believe a lot of this assertions you're saying here. But you put all this forward with the science and data as this letter to your liberals.
Yeah, and let me just say, clarify one thing. When you say I say these things, I don't want anybody to believe what I say. I don't ask anybody to believe what I say or any claims. I say, here's what the science says as I'm reading it. Here it is. I'm laying it out. If you have different science, if you see something that I'm not seeing, let's talk about it. But this is what it seems clear to me that what the current best understanding of the science says on each of these issues. And, it's pretty interesting because when I started reading the science on masks, there's literally hundreds of studies, and almost all of them say that the masks don't work against viruses. Some of them say that they're effective against bacteria, which is a much larger organism. But I couldn't find really anything that says that they're effective against viruses. It's like trying to stop a mosquito with a chain link fence because the virus is so small. But also there's a huge body of evidence that they're also very dangerous, that they spread disease, that they interfere with that they hurt your immune response by interfering with the amount of CO2 and oxygen that goes into your lungs, and by basically creating disease media on your face, which spreads to your dentiture, to your gums, to your lungs, to your skin. And it was injuring people, particularly children. And then there's psychological impacts of masking, which people will be studying hopefully for years, that show when God gave us 42 muscles in our face in order to communicate with each other, the subtleties, whether it's skepticism or sarcasm or or affection or love or happiness or joy or brotherhood and sisterhood. All of those things are ways that human beings are constantly communicating non-verbally with each other. And the ambition and intention of every totalitarian regime is to control communication between human beings and to destroy the capacity for community. And there's no more effective way to do that than to force people to put on masks. And you see, in certain theocratic states, which are the most tyrannical states on the planet, where entire genders are required to wear masks, and they become chattels. Once you tell a woman you can't wear a mask, then you can say you can't drive a car, you can't learn to read, you can't, you can't talk to a man, or you can't talk about certain subjects. And that's what happens in those, theocratic. So the mask is a really, and we can't overlook this, when we talk about medical interventions by public health, human freedoms, democracy are public health issues. Human happiness and stress are public health issues. And if you tell a whole people, we need to put you on a mask, we need to look at what are the cultural and political impacts of that kind of decision. And nobody ever looked at that. And I'll tell you one interesting thing that I found, and I can't tell you that this is real or not, but my assumption is that it's idiotic to wear a mask outside. Maybe masks work inside, and maybe they work if you're sick. They probably don't work if you're well to prevent you from getting sick, but maybe they work in, stopping people who are sneezing and stuff from conveying their disease in respiratory droplets. That would make sense to me. But I couldn't find anything that supported that. But I assume that in institutional settings like hospitals, and particularly in surgical theaters, that it makes a lot of sense for doctors to wear masks so that they don't, sneeze into somebody's open chest cavity. But there's actually, that issue has been studied, and all the studies that I've been able to find, and I'm not saying this is true, but I'm saying there have been extensive studies, including one at the University of London Hospital in 1982, where they said, hey, we've been telling doctors to put on masks for 100 years, and nobody's actually done a peer-reviewed study of whether it worked. So they did the study, and for 6 months, they looked at all the data during masking, and then they had 6 months where they didn't mask, and the infection rate went down when the doctors were unmasked, even in the surgical theaters. I'm not arguing that doctors in surgical theaters should take off their masks, but I'm saying, we should be able to talk about this stuff. And we should be able to talk about it without a penalty, without getting censored. And maybe those weren't good studies, but they were published in peer-reviewed journals and high-impact peer-reviewed journals, and they were done by people who are medical professionals and scientific professionals at the highest level. They can make mistakes. People do all the time. But we should be able to talk about it. We should be able to criticize it. So I should be able to say this and have another guy from the other side come on and say, wait a minute, you overlooked the fact that this was a small study, or, whatever, and tell me where I got it wrong. Let's have a congenial, friendly, respectful discussion. And our democracy needs that, and we're not getting it. We're getting one side.
I'm looking for partners, collaborators, colleagues who want to join forces with me around the globe and create real value, generational wealth, and financial freedom for everyone else around the world. Get involved in the cryptocurrency markets, get involved in the NFT markets. This is your moment. Life all comes down to a few moments. Don't let this pass. Now it's not too late. Next year's going to be too late. Ultimately, this is about freedom. That's the way I see it. This is about giving power back to the people and enabling billions of people worldwide to use the financial markets to improve their lives and those of their friends and their families and their communities. Honestly, I think it's a violation of human rights not to allow people basic access to financial services. Because right now people are being kept in the dark, they're being robbed of education, and it's a travesty. And so I'm looking for people that want to join me and be a part of this solution. And that all happens inside the DeFi Academy. The gains my students are making are absolutely amazing. Double, triple-digit gains in the first month alone. That's amazing. This will change your life. Now is the time to get involved. I'm going to tell you exactly how my students in my academy made money in the last 30 days. I'm talking about real trading results. And let me just whet your appetite a little bit. Let me hit you with some numbers. I'm talking Brendan from New Zealand is up 68.77% on the month. Steve from Europe up 83%. Albert in Singapore up 169.9% on one single trade. I got Susan up 153% on her call options alone, also rocking 139% returns and 442% returns as well on individual trades. These are people that are changing their financial future in the last 30 days, but it's based on trading discipline.
I've graduated over 500 students from inside my academy from over 54 countries around the world. It's amazing. When it comes to crypto, DeFi, and blockchain, we love this space. We truly believe it's the future. This is down to our core. It's authentic to what we're doing, and everybody can tell through the camera because you can't make this stuff up.
If you're watching me now, wherever you are, I implore you, take 60 seconds right now and join my academy. Apply today. Now you've got a chance. Life all comes down to a few moments. What are you going to do? What's the choice that you're going to make?